Hey, Kedar, I still see those icons at the bottom of your screen. I don't know what's going on. You might have just rolled down there, but just FYI, I'm seeing those. There you go. Perfect.
Okay.
All right.
And you're just the presentation slides, right? Nothing else.
That's it. Yep, that's
Yep.
perfect.
Okay.
And attendees are
Okay.
starting to roll in. I just saw our first attendee land. So we'll see this number tick up as we get started. We'll start about 1 minute after the hour just to give everybody that extra 1 minute.
Sure. Sounds great.
Camera's a little more close up than Zoom. So it's like, uh-oh. Step back. Richard's going to make it in here just under the wire. Here we go.
Yeah. It's still not in. Okay. This part comes anyway about 5 minutes in, 5-10 minutes in, so we'll be well inside before that.
Yeah, true.
All right, couple minutes.
Mhm.
Come on, Richard. White knuckling us all the way down to the last 30 seconds.
I think he has not restarted his machine for several months. So
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
yes now.
Doing an update, downloading, Catalina. You can use that clicker comment too. That's a good joke to have for the old CTOs. All right, I think we need to get started. I'm going to send. All right, attendees still ticking up. This is good. Still no Richard, so we're going to fly by the seat here. Nope, he's not on the set.
Okay.
So. All right, are we ready?
Yep.
All right, I think we're going to go live here. Just got to make sure that I'm positioned properly. This camera's freaking me out. Okay. I will hit the start button and it records immediately, and we'll hear the GoToMeeting lady, and away we go. All right. Good luck, everyone. Have a great show.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, good afternoon, good evening, and good morning around the world. Welcome to this Mesa webinar. Today we're here with Invenio. We've got a great program for you set up. It's called How to Increase Spend Control and Reduce Inefficiency in Your Production Process. I'm Guy Finley. I'm the president of Mesa. We're going to get started with a little bit of housekeeping to get started. As with all of our Mesa webinars, we will send you the recording of this presentation afterwards. You'll get a link out to be able to view that online at your convenience. Kedar, you can advance the slide. And also in your GoToWebinar dialog box, you can ask questions during any time during the webinar. So if we're on a topic that's particular, please type that question right away. Obviously, if it's important and we're on that stream of consciousness, we'll interrupt and address that question, but we'll also have a concerted Q&A at the end of the presentation. And ultimately, this is about you. We're here to share your views to help our industry. We've been producing these webinars obviously throughout the course of Mesa's history, but in the last few months, it's become more important as we connect through these interesting global times, connect online. But the other thing that I wanted to share, which is I believe important around the topic of this webinar, is this is another continuing technology demonstration about how we can connect our industry in a more meaningful way. I've spoken a lot about weaving a fabric of a group of services to ensure that we paint a complete picture for our customers, paint and complete a picture for our studio customers, our end user consumers, and ultimately connecting our data in the most important ways to increase efficiencies throughout our business is really Mesa's mantra. So very excited to have a great team here today. And let me actually introduce that before we begin. So these are our hands-on industry experts. Of course, you heard from me. I'm Guy Finley, but the real star of the show is Kedar Patwardhan. Kedar, say hello to everybody. Welcome.
Hi everyone. Thanks. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are.
Lovely. And Kedar, you're the leader of media and entertainment for Invenio.
That's right. So I head up the media and entertainment practice within Invenio, and we'll talk a little bit more about what Invenio is and what does it mean for us to be in this spectacular industry.
Wonderful. And of course, the audience here is the user community out in the marketplace. I mean, I do know you also have special guests that will be joining us as well, correct?
That's right. So we have Richard Whittington joining us, who will also give a few comments from his side. Probably a lot of people already know him. He's the head of SAP practice from media, been in the industry for several years. So he will step in at some appropriate moment.
Excellent. All right. Well, Kedar, do you want to get started, or you're going to walk us through your tool, obviously, and I know you also have some video to share with us. I think I should just turn it over to you and say, let's take it away.
Thank you. Thanks, Guy. That's a great start, great introduction, and welcome everyone. Thanks for taking time out. I know it's been a busy time for many of us. In fact, it's probably got more busy than it ever has been, and there's probably by some people's imagination, too many webinars going on. And there is a term I recently read called webinar coma, that you sometimes have to wake up after a webinar finishes. So we hope we will give you enough information that will keep it interesting. But like Guy said, let's keep it interactive. So if you have any questions at any point of time, just type it in. We would like to take it up as soon as it comes and just keep it more smooth and involved for everyone. So obviously you heard the topic, which is reducing the spend in production finance and increasing your efficiencies. And now why this topic? In the industry, we all know, especially in the last 4 or 5 years, we have seen a big increase in the number of online platforms, and that has changed a few things. dramatically when it comes to the production side of the business. So for example, in 2019, more than 550, in fact, original programs were created. The exact number probably will be known very soon. But if you compare this number, in 2010, it was just about 196. So we are talking about less than 200 programs just about 10 years back. And even in 2018, in fact, it was 496 already. So we had more than doubled the amount of new original programs. And when I say programs, these are typical episodic serial content that we are talking about that was being created. So what does that mean? It's not like we have too many new players. We now don't have 3 times new players in the industry now. Yes, of course, we have some new players, but what it means is with better access to the consumers and various platforms now that are available, the same production houses are creating a lot more content now. So at any point of time, if a production house was handling probably 3 simultaneous productions, now probably they're handling 7 or 8 at any point of time, and that increases its own challenges. And we are just about getting started. If you, depending on which source you look at, media houses have placed more than 65 billion for the new content, original content production in the next 3 years. By some estimates, it's more than 100 billion, and it can go up as well. So we are just getting started. So this problem is not going to go away or become smaller. It's only going to get bigger. As a result of that, the average budget for each episode has also gone up. So by some estimate, it has almost doubled from what it used to be about 5 years back. So it has now reached 6 million. We also have some large episodes like famously Game of Thrones. One episode had costed $15 million. So the cost that is being spent on each of this episode is huge. It's humongous. And when you compound the problem with the number of productions that a production house is managing at any point of time, or a media house is managing at any point of time, with the amount of money going into each episode, you suddenly reach the scale of a problem which is unprecedented. We have not faced anything like this before in the past, and some of the outcomes are obvious. So in the last 15 years, 72% movies made went above budget. That's what Verity said in their research in October 2018. In particular, the production budgeting and production finance is a complicated topic. Even now, as per Gartner, there are at least 4, or on an average, 4 siloed systems that are used by each media house for production budgeting. So you always have all the same problems that you know about. There is a mismatch of data. The finance is not smooth. The connectability between systems is a problem. You never have the single version of truth, so on and so forth. So it's still a big problem which doesn't have a smooth and nice solution for it, and that brings to the next point, where the real-time visibility of this production cost is one of the biggest priority for the CFOs. Below the line, particularly so because it's more difficult, but even many of the above the line costs tend to spiral out of control before the media house even knows it or the production manager knows it. That kind of piqued our interest into this topic, and especially when we are talking about the OTT platform, why is this become even more important than ever before? So the OTT platforms are looking at 2 ways to turn profits, and by various estimates, most of the OTT platforms talk about a 3 to 5 years time to turn profitable from their launch. The one obvious way is increase the subscriber base, which is what everyone is doing right now, trying to go nationwide and then go to international subscribers, generate more revenue on the same content by going into different markets. Then, of course, try and lock in those customers, increase the customer lifetime value from them over a number of years, convert that into loyalty, and hopefully charge more subscription revenue from them. The other side of it, which is also equally important, and it has started getting attention now more than before, is managing the cost better. And when we talk about cost, production cost is one of the biggest costs, as we saw, and it's ever increasing with the plethora of original content that's getting created. Of course, there are other costs on marketing, distribution, and technology costs, etc. But production cost becomes a major driver, and reducing that cost is a big driver for all the media houses to turn profits faster than their original business plans. So with this background, I would probably just give a quick 2-minute about who we are and why, what we have to offer for this specific problem, which is a big enough problem for the industry. This is what we are. We have been in business since 2006, and media and entertainment has been one of our core focused vertical right from the beginning. We are headquartered in UK, near London, and our US head office is in Los Angeles. We are an SAP Gold partner. We work extensively on various SAP tools. And we could probably proudly say we have some of the best SAP skills when it comes to application of that of this powerful tool to the media industry. We have also created some of our own IP solutions as add-ons to the SAP SAP tool, which is one of the tool that we are going to talk about, and one customer who has used it extensively and successfully. But all our customers are referenceable. And I'll just take a pause here. I don't know if Richard, you have.
Yeah, and sorry, I had issues with the webcam, and I was just going to try and get into my iPad, but since we're here already, no, I think in terms of Invenio, I think you are spot on in terms of production being a hot topic area. I mean, if you think about the spend, and you can pick the number, but it's close to something like $200 billion of spend just in the US. If you can help drive some efficiencies and save about 3 to 5% there, that's a meaningful move of the needle. And I think, as a partner of SAP, you've embraced SAP's technology, you've extended our S4 digital core using the SAP cloud platform, and your domain knowledge is really solid. So we're excited to partner with you. It's not a new journey, it's been a journey for a while. You've delivered in music, you've delivered on other projects for us. So happy to be here today, and I'll just sit and listen.
Thank you, Richard. And hopefully you can help us with some of the Q&A as well. I'm sure there'll be.
Sure, yeah, I'll be here at the end.
Correct. Yeah, sure. And this is what Richard was talking about. So we are not new to media business as such. In fact, we cover the entire gamut of media industry. Whether we are talking about print and production, we talked about music. Universal Music is one of our largest customer, based in Santa Monica, LA. We did a significant project with BBC Studios just recently, which was again an S4HANA digital core in partnership with one of the big four consulting firms. And so on and so forth. And in particular, we'll talk about 21st Century Fox, which owns the Star Television and Hotstar, which is using the particular solution that we are going to talk about for last almost 10 years. So that's roughly who we are and what we do. In short, we have great skills when it comes to media industry and on SAP. And with a big enough problem to solve, it always gets us excited. And that's what we try to do. And we tried to create a solution which is Invenio's Content Financial. And that's built on SAP S4 as the core, like Richard said, and uses SAP Cloud Platform. So it's a combination of these two tools, which is quite unique. For SAP, it offers a unique platform for media industry to not only get the digital core, but also allows some of the flexible development that an industry like media needs. Media industry processes are unique. The traditional way of using finance doesn't work for media industry. So the cloud platform helps in doing that. And that's where we developed that solution. Not only that, it also connects with the Media Product Master, which is one of the SAP's unique offering to the media industry. And that's something that no other solution probably offers in the industry. So the solution also works with that and gives a complete package for any media house. I'll just briefly talk about what the solution is, and then we will see a small video as well, which has a demo. So that will give you a clear idea and some screen cap, so you can have a look and understand what the solution looks like. But essentially, we start with what we call as the greenlighting process, and that's broken down into two steps: concept approval and deal memo. So concept approval is typically like the slightly light touch synopsis or idea level approval. So when someone comes up with a new idea, or you receive a new idea from a production house and you want to make a decision on it, you still want to know what this synopsis is, what the program is going to be all about, what are the high level budget numbers we are talking about, and then whether you want to even consider that idea for further details. So it becomes like an idea store for you, where you store all your data digitally, and you can refer to it later on. And there are some interesting stories about this, how this can help in your future business. But this is a great tool where you can have your idea store. and you can have your digitally recorded approvals and rejections to begin with. Then we move to the next part, which is the heart of the solution, which is the deal memo. And this is various industry terms used for it. The deal memo is the most common one, but there is also the production contract. And this is at the heart of the solution. This is where you have the entire program or project, the production you're going to do, that's defined. So what's the program going to be, how many episodes it's going to have, what's going to be your overall budget, how that's broken down by various heads, what are going to be your episode level budgets. Not only that, it further goes into your vendor contracts. So if you have your vendor contracts with a production house or your talent contract, so when you are going to use some specific artist for the show, the stars, what kind of financial contracts are you getting them? Are you getting into with them? That entire information gets captured. We also capture some high-level rights information at this point of time, which then becomes a feed to your core rights management system. So you have a consistency of data again. That kind of again gives you a connectability within the same solution. And the best part of it, because it is all based on the SAP ECC where your core financials will be, you don't have different versions of truth. This is where your planning happens, your budgeting happens, and that matches directly with your financial system as well. It again goes through a full greenlighting digital approval workflow where various parties can contribute. So this can even go and capture your marketing cost, for example, for the promotion of that program. It can capture the revenue that you're likely to generate either through ads or possibly through right sales. So depending on which channels you're going to use, you can capture that information. With all of that information, then you can generate like a P&L statement, the expected P&L for the program. And using that, you can create a digital approval workflow for the deal memo. But it's not only a green lighting process. Once the deal memo is approved, it actually creates several standard SAP artifacts automatically. Whatever those might be for the technical people on the call, it includes all the project system data for WBS, assets in your books. All of that gets automatically created. So from users' point of view, they have keyed in the information in their day-to-day business language. The approval workflow has happened, and it then automatically has generated all the artifacts. And that increases the adaptability of the solution like this, because that's one of the challenges, for media industry production people to get to use a solution which is not in their own language. That sometimes can be a challenge. So SAP has this great layer on top of with Fiori, which we have used effectively, and that helps us to increase the adaptability by giving the users their day-to-day language based forms, and then they can just generate all the artifacts for SAP in the backend. So once that is done, then we actually go into the execution part as well, where we deal with procurement, invoice accounting, inventory recognition, and amortization. And these are all important pieces. And we will see a little bit about that in the video as well. But it actually deals with the automatic generation of purchase orders for your vendors and artists, the whole invoice verification and invoice accounting process. But more important than that, the two key financial processes that are very unique to our business and in media industry, and which we need to cater for, are inventory recognition and the amortization. So one of the big problems is how to recognize the WIP, WIP, or work in progress inventory, how to make the provisions for it, how to do the settlement of that into your books of accounts. So there are tools provided within the solution which help you do that entire process smoothly. And this is of great help when you're talking about your month end or financial year end, as well as when you're doing your final production close. And finally, amortization, which has become a bigger problem than it ever was before, because when in the future, in the simple world that we once used to live in, which was more physical and linear broadcasting, you could probably have the amortization done based on number of runs in case of a typical broadcast company, or based on a certain sales of a production that you have completed, or the right sales. But now it has become a lot more complicated. You have the OTT platforms, which means you may have time-based amortization. You may have a combination of run-based and time-based. You may have revenue-based amortization as well. So our solution actually creates a flexible grid where you can define your own rules and apply those. So your entire asset gets a right treatment in your financial books of accounts, and it's not a headache. It's not a problem that you need to deal with in the end. So with that overview, we will actually run a short video where you can see what we mean and also see some of the screens.
Invenio's content financial solution for the media industry is designed to help you make faster, better financial decisions by creating a streamlined, automated process to increase the financial efficiency throughout the content creation, acquisition, and utilization process. Built on SAP's Digital Core S/4HANA solution and certified on SAP App Center, it's ready to help you in your transformational journey with SAP. The following short demo is designed to give you an overview of some of the features of the Invenio content financial solution. So let's look at an overview of the system components. Here we start with the concept approval form. When a member of the team comes up with an idea, they need approval from superiors. The concept approval form is an efficient way to showcase an idea across the pre-designed workbase for feedback and approvals. Once this concept approval form is approved, it's developed into a deal memo. The deal memo is a summary of the concept or acquisition and goes into budget details, production house choices, lead talents, and staffing contracts. Once the deal memo is approved, the standard SAP elements are created automatically and procurement starts. POs will automatically be created. Once the services have been delivered or rendered, the service receipts are created and subsequent invoicing posted automatically. Inventory recognition is an important step as this inventory will soon become IP on the balance sheet. It's at this point the inventory recognition and amortization principles are defined for the organization. Now, with this basic understanding of the system components, let's have a look at the solution. In this demo, we'll be showcasing some key features to the solution, including the concept approval form, deal memo, milestone achievement, content receipt, inventory recognition, and amortization. Most of these stages are developed by Invenio, with some standard SAP Fiori applications such as My Inbox, procurement, invoicing settlements, and amortization. From the Launchpad, we can access the concept approval form. Here you can capture key information like content type and category, nature of the program, for example, co-production meaning a collaboration between in-house and a third-party production house. Other fields are configurable and can be adjusted to customer needs. Typical information captured includes genre, subgenre, number of episodes, average duration, estimated release date, and estimated budget cost. In this form, the creative department will document what the concept is all about, including a synopsis. Once the concept is approved in principle, the budget is still at a broad level. This will be amended in a deal memo as negotiations are finalized. Deal memo is at the heart of the Invenio content financial solution and is a central place for capturing all the details related to a production like budgets, artist contracts, vendor contracts, basic rights information, and milestone achievements. We will touch upon some of the key areas of the deal memo here. Every deal memo has a version number, which changes as it gets updated. At this stage, the detailed budgets are entered in the system. Budgets can be created for in-house, production house, or both, depending on the nature of the program. These budgets are configurable, depending on the organization needs and industry standards. Once the costs have been entered into the deal memo, the system apportions this cost equally across each of the episodes. You have the flexibility here to change any episode costs, such as the pilot episode or for the grand finale. You have the ability to create artist or talent contracts as part of the deal memo. Each artist contract can have more detailed information, such as number of episodes contracted for and milestone payments. Naturally, this depends on the organization and how they've negotiated milestones as to how this is configured. There can be many more than 2 milestones per artist. Apart from the talent contracts, vendor contracts is a critical element of deal memo, especially with production houses. The production house contracts also capture cost per episode, delivery format, and delivery dates. As and when the content is received, the delivery date will be updated and the payment linked with delivery is initiated. We also capture basic level rights information like the start date, the end date, the validity, territory restrictions, and the number of runs that are allowed. The next part is the schedule and expected viewership ratings. Various departments such as marketing, revenue, commercial, and finance departments contribute here to come up with projected revenue numbers based on expected viewership ratings. This now provides the basis of the P&L document, which allows the stakeholders to make decisions such as whether to create in-house, co-produce, or outsource. Now the budgets have been assigned in the deal memo, POs have been created, and services are being rendered, we can now start booking expenses. Almost invariably, the vendor and artist payments are linked with milestone achievement. This could be triggered by a target date or an event such as an interface telling our system that the content has been received. The system initiates the release of the payments linked to this milestone. The subsequent processing is done automatically. At this stage, the costs are captured against the budget and deal memo is updated to reflect the real-time status of budget versus spend and the amount remaining at hand to spend for the future. As the system has been automated for the content financial solution, we've cut out 3 or 4 pages of navigation through various stages of cost booking. The inventory recognition is programmed so that once you've received the content, you'll be able to recognize the inventory. This process can also be triggered through an interface. When content receipt is confirmed, the inventory recognition will progress. We're now going to look at inventory recognition as the content has been received and the inventory is good to be recognized. We can record the actual amount paid to the production house and provide for the rest of the value to recognize the inventory at 100% value. This is a calculation engine we've built so the system will automatically provide the deficit value in the system. Finally, we come to the amortization part, which is based on a standard SAP depreciation transaction. This will post the depreciation of the inventory to the final books of accounts, a process usually carried out by the finance department. Our solution allows you to create a flexible matrix for defining amortization rules. You can amortize your assets using various methods like run-based, time-based, or revenue-based rules to amortize your content. This was a demonstration of some of the key functionality of the Invenio content financial solution, from creation of the concept to inventory recognition and amortization. As highlighted in the demo, the solution is highly customizable to individual company requirements, and with the in-depth knowledge of our media consultants, we will be able to advise you on how this can enhance and streamline your business. If you'd like to talk to one of our media consultants, please call us using the contact details on your screen or visit invenio-solutions.com.
Okay, great. And now let's talk about a specific customer who has used this solution. So you probably got a bit of an idea about what the solution is about. Of course, this is what we showed was only a short video. There is a big process behind it, as you can imagine. So we talk about end of production process, and there are several bits and bobs around it. And the solution actually goes into quite a lot of details about this process and how to automate them. So it's not just the 7-minute video that we showed, but that's just to give you an idea of what the solution is all about. But this example will probably make it clear of what this solution is capable of handling. So we probably all know or have heard about Star Television Network, which was part of 21st Century Fox and now all owned by Disney, of course. Just to give a quick introduction about what they are, they have 60+ regional channels primarily in India and Asia, and which focus on general entertainment, movies, and sports and news as well. Of course, what brought them to everyone's attention is when they launched the Hotstar platform in 2015, and it now has 300 million active users, which makes it one of the largest subscribed platform in the world. Of course, they have different models. There is a advertise-based driven model, and then there are 2 layers of subscription as well. But the numbers are simply mind-boggling, and they now have a content library which is more than $8 billion and ever growing. They produce 30,000 hours of original content every year. That's what the business is today. And the CEO had famously said, we are not, they were of course started as a broadcasting company with number of channels, but we are not a broadcasting company anymore, is what he said. We are creators of the content, and we should be present where our customers are. And that's what actually originally led to the Hotstar. Now with Disney's acquisition, they have launched the Disney Plus Hotstar as a combination this year, which is already getting some great reception in the market in terms of number of subscribers. Now, if you look at the journey of this Star Group, even before Disney's acquisition, they went through a rapid growth phase as such in their core business as well as with the Hotstar platform. So the finance and the processes and systems were always playing a little bit of catch up with that growth. So they also faced similar growth challenges like many of the media houses we talk about today are facing, related to visibility on the production, costing, overrun of budget from time to time, or overrun of the cost or compared to budget on individual productions, the tedious month-end closing processes, the interdepartment linkage, where they can coordinate between various departments with one single base, not having their own different data, but having one single base. So there were some of this similar industry problems that we talked about earlier, and we see probably several media production houses facing. They first implemented this solution in 2010 as the base, which was based on the older version of SAP, of course. And then when they launched the Hotstar in 2015-16, the solution was extended to manage the Hotstar-driven processes as well, because there was a sharp rise in the increase of content and a lot of increase in the overall size of the engagement itself. So where they are today, so we saw what the deal memo is all about in the presentation and in the video earlier. They have created more than 1,600 deal memos, which relate to about 57,500 plus episodes. 2,000 plus vendor contracts, which are the production houses. A lot of production house happens in-house for them, but they also do co-productions and outsource productions. So 2,000 plus vendor contracts. There are probably a few thousand artist contracts as well within that. So just to give you an idea of what is the scalability of this solution. So we are not talking about handling small volumes. This solution is capable of handling huge number of volumes, especially since the launch of Hotstar in 2015 and 16. If we look at the numbers, the number of deal memos created every year has doubled since that time. So there is an increased load on the overall system, on the number of productions they are doing, and the solution has scaled up to manage that. Some of the clear benefits they saw were on the finance side, where the month-end closing process has reduced by almost 40% when it comes to their time and effort. There is a great improvement in their efficiency around accounts payable, because production cost is all about paying the right people at the right way for the right amount and at the right time. So it can become quite a tedious and inefficient process, requiring a lot of people to manage this. But with the right tool in place, they have improved the efficiency by more than 30%. The cash flow forecasting has become very, very good. So that's something that we probably did not speak about enough earlier. But with your milestones defined, with your payments, expected dates defined, and if you monitor them closely, you can predict your cash flow, especially the cash outflows. You can also predict to some extent the cash inflows coming in with the revenues that you are forecasting, and that helps them manage the individual production cash flows much better. And now they are producing a lot more content within the budget. So what do we mean by that? So typically when a deal memo starts, and we talked about the versions of it, it's almost impossible that you can create version 1 and that will be your final version right till the end. By the way, Star does manage that for a large number of their productions as well. But typically you would expect 2 versions to at least happen. And if you consider the number of versions that they had for the deal memos, more than 70% or close to 70% of their content is produced within that budget. And this is one case, of course, how we did for this for Hotstar and the Star Television Network. There will be some people who will be willing to speak one-to-one with some of the, if someone is interested to know more about their story. But this is not where it stopped, of course. We then implemented this solution for Standard Group in Kenya, which is the largest media company in Kenya. And just recently now we have started this implementation of this solution on the newer version, the S4HANA version for ARD as well. And ARD is the largest, one of the largest broadcasting companies in Europe. They are the national broadcaster of Germany, like the BBC of Germany, you can call them. So we have kicked off this project now of implementing the same solution for them on the new S4HANA solution version as well. So we have just got going, and I think we have more to offer to the industry, and we would be happy to listen to your views about this, help you in any way, answer your queries, and so on and so forth. So that's the part of our webinar. And Guy, maybe we can look at some Q&As by now.
Absolutely. And please, feel free to keep the questions coming. We do have a couple stacked up. And Richard, if you're available as well, we'd love to have your input. So please chime in where appropriate. Okay, so all right, first question. And I'll just phrase it the way that they phrased it. Why is production budgeting systems being neglected over the years, even though we kind of know that it's one of the main sources of revenue leakage? This is a very broad, open-ended question, but it does seem that budgeting has been neglected in the past, and I think we're probably all familiar with the disparate systems, I'm putting it in air quotes, that some people use to create these things. So maybe Kedar, you and Richard can riff on that for a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I think I'll just give a quick answer to that. I think it's probably the focus has been more on increasing the revenues, of course, and that's the more shiny side of the business where the attention goes quite easily. Saving the cost or production cost management is a less glamorous, I would say, but it's equally important for the business, as we saw, with the increase in volume of production and the number of channels that are increasing for creating the new content.
Guy, I'll chime in a little bit too, and again, apologies for no camera here.
Of course.
I think the other part of it too is, as Kader said, it's just the spend volume and the ability to drive some of that cost and those inefficiencies out. We don't see the guys like EP or Cast and Crew going away by any means. What we do see is visibility across that shut supply chain. Obviously I have a bias towards that being an SAP, but we see the visibility because if you just look at the pandemic, one of the issues was no production, right? And so being able to produce content at a lower cost of goods, to have more of a backlog in catalog, especially for some of the new entrants that don't have the depth of catalog of, say, something like a Viacom CBS, which we're able to quickly pivot into using Paramount content, for example. Being able to kind of store that content up a little ahead of time without needing that rapid ROI because you spent so much on it, I think is a significant learning as we come out of this crisis and people start to reimagine what production would look like.
Yeah, interesting. Another quick question from the crowd. Personalization is a key trend for media houses. How would you balance the production cost per episode to digital transformation spend, especially with there's so many cloud-based solutions and platforms that are available? How do you drive that?
Yeah, so I mean, from our specific tool point of view, when we're talking about the personalization part of it, the solution is very flexible, and we understand that while some of the processes are common, every company works in a slightly different way. So everything that you saw on those screens is configurable. You can build your own templates depending on the program type that you use. So it allows you to do that. And as far as the tools are concerned, however, this is all within the framework. So again, Richard talked about earlier about the cloud platform and how that allows the flexibility. So it's not like, wild west where every company goes and develops their own things, but it is well within the framework, which still gets supported for the life cycle. So that makes it easier and easy adaptable for the cloud solution as well. And secondly, we are not talking about replacing some of the solution. Again, Richard rightly said about Cast and Crew and things like that. We are looking to work with them. So this solution allows you to API-based integration to work with some of the specialized niche solution as and when required. In the traditional broadcast, linear broadcast, that world is not going to go away. So you will still have your playout systems and broadcast management systems, so you can still have the data flowing in from them for as run logs and things like that, which will still happen through API. So that will still continue. So the personalization is there within a certain framework, of course, and that's the need of the hour. So the solution already takes care of those.
Excellent. Follow on, and it has to do with Richard bringing up EP and Cast and Crew earlier. How do you differentiate yourself from those other players? And follow on, does your solution also offer integration to payroll processing for Crew, or is that still disconnected?
Yeah, so it does offer integration with the specific solutions, and whenever there is a standardized solution available, it is obviously easier. To give an example, I talked about ARD in Germany, and they have a very specialized process around the payroll processing because the German laws are quite complex. So in that case, we built a certain API for that to happen. But when we are talking about standardized tools like Cast and Crew or some other tools, it's obviously much more easily available. How do we differentiate ourselves? We are more focused on side of things, looking at the financial life cycle of the entire program, from conception or from idea all the way to the financial amortization, linked with your core financials which reside in your standard SAP. Cast and Crew, of course, has a plethora of services right from the offering the Cast and Crew as well, starting from that. But we focus primarily on the financial aspects of it, from the planning, budgeting, to the financial amortization in the books of accounts, all of that tying up with your core finance, and giving you a single view, single version of the truth. That's what our USP is.
Excellent. You'd mentioned.
Yeah, no,
oh, go ahead, Richard.
sorry, Guy.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. That's part of the charm of these webinars as we talk over each other. I apologize. No, I think I'll just add on to that. I mean, I think that the key breakpoint, if you like, is the title lifecycle management. So I think, what Kedar explained, everything, I mean, an idea starts from a concept, right? That concept turns into a production. That production's managed by folks like Cast and Crew and EP, and they do a great job at it. And, but what we want to be able to do is bring that data in at the single line item level, so that things like, a financial wrap up of a production becomes a thing of the past. So it's much like the analogy would be a close. Right, a financial close in SAP can be done, daily, 2 daily, 3 daily, whatever. We have a vision. Sorry, we have a vision on making that the same in a production. So we have a real-time view of travel, of costume, of makeup artist, of hair, all the different costs that are making up a production are able then to be sucked into S4, so that the line manager, the production manager, using the tools that they use today, can be in sync with the people who are writing the checks. And so there's no, I think they had a number there on the opening slide about how many productions go over budget at the end. We want to try and make that a thing of the past.
Yeah, very interesting.
Well
Thank
said.
you. You spoke about customizing it to a country, right? But obviously, and this is another question from the crowd, is your solution, is it flexible to accommodate unique business processes at the individual company? That's why I'm queuing that off of the work that you did in Germany around it. But that idea of customizable software, everybody does it, even though we're all doing the same thing, we all do it a little bit differently. So that customization is also a factor. So how flexible is the solution to accommodate those?
It is, but it also provides sort of best practices framework, which is what SAP has always done. So it provides a best practices framework for this kind of content lifecycle that we talked about, from greenlighting to amortization and lifecycle. Within that, of course, there is flexibility. So we talked about, for example, templates. How your production cost breakup happens for a sports event versus an episodic serialized episode content. It's quite different. So or versus, for example, a documentary. So you can have your own templates defined within that, what kind of budget heads you want to capture, how you want to break it down. Is it going to be episode wise, or is it going to be one-off cost? So there is a lot of flexibility in defining those. The framework is there, but within that, every company operates in a slightly different way. So as far as possible, we would like to keep that framework in place, because it gives you, it meets all the requirements in the industry about the budget control, about the audit requirements and digital workflows, etc., etc. So all of that remains in place, and no finance person would like to bypass those. But within that, depending on how your business works, what kind of production you are into, there's a lot of flexibility to define the requirements. And yes, again, there is a lot of flexibility for the country-specific requirements as well, because again, it is built on the robust platform of SAP, which caters to, well, multi-country, multi-currency, multi-language, all of it. So it's not a challenge at all.
Sure. A quick little outlier question. Do you see do you see an IoT integration across deal memo workflow to report a potential, we started with leakage, to report a potential cost overrun? I mean, is it, are we going to get an alert?
It's a great question. It's a great question, actually. In fact, that's something that we have our vision set on as well. How we can make it more real time with some of the IoT applications being made part of it, so that you can have some of the real time data flowing in. Do we have it right now? No, unfortunately. I don't think industry is also has reached to that level, but we definitely have our vision set on that, and we would love to take not only our solution but also the industry maturity to that level with the help of our solution.
Sure, crawl, walk, run, right? Let's get it. Let's get the process digitized, then we can get the real-time alerts. I totally agree. You spoke about the STAR case, and ultimately, there's a couple questions that have to do with scalability, and is your solution scalable to manage the high volume of content that you're predicting? I mean, that I think you demonstrated in the STAR case, but I didn't know if you wanted to dig into that a little bit more.
Yeah, it absolutely. So obviously we cannot talk about specific numbers, but even if you look at the number of episodes, for example, 57,500, that's a crazy number of original content that they have produced. Yeah. So, and 30,000 hours of original content they produce every year. That of course includes sports content and so on and so forth. But still, it's mind-boggling, in terms of the number of content that they're creating. So yeah, absolutely, it has been tried and tested to that scale, and scale is not a problem at all in this case for us.
Yeah, and similar follow on, Richard, just feel free to jump in. We talked about increasing productivity, right, on the STAR case and driving efficiencies, but what about decreasing full-time employees? I mean, is this something that can free up resources for other tasks? Is that also part of the objective?
All right, Keto, I'll take that one. Come on. No, I don't think it's about reducing FTEs. I think it's about having a better sense on cash flow, because, I mean, I know everybody's got COVID or Zoom fatigue, but you cannot escape the impact of what we're going through, right? And so cash flow in any company, in any industry, is top of mind and paramount. So what we're trying to do, I think, by bringing efficiencies is free up some cash. Now, whether that cash is driven by better procurement, whether that cash is driven by better travel planning and not doing restarts and moving people around the world as production opens up again, is much more important to me than saying we're going to take out 3 heads from the business. I think that's missing the bigger picture, which is really how can I get, let's pick a number of one of the leading studios, right? 15 billion in production spend last year. How can I get 3 to 5% of that back just from having, even third-party companies take advantage of the cost agreements I have with other suppliers for, say, travel. So I think there's a lot of just basically unsexy housekeeping that could be driven out by having better visibility to spend across the value chain, including from the moment when a concept gets approved through the deal memo.
Kedar, you want to add anything on that, Kedar?
No, I think that's absolutely perfect. And Richard very rightly used one word, that is, you're missing the big picture. Otherwise, it's not just focused on reducing the headcount or whatever. That's not the main focus of this solution at all. It's more about improving your cash flow, reducing your spend by giving you better visibility, and that's what it is more about.
Yeah, and I didn't mean, by the way, I didn't mean to be insulting to the person who asked the question there. I meant that, this is such a rich opportunity for all of us, including partners like Caster and EP, to really rethink production, triggered by the events that we've just gone through. I mean, it's almost like someone pressed the pause button, right? So now let's take the pause to come back with a better, stronger way of doing things, because of all the things we've talked about today, about different platforms, about volume, about velocity of content, about the spend on content. We've been given this opportunity to pause and rethink.
Yeah, and look, the natural fear on the automation side is though we're grinding out, we're grinding out jobs, but the reality also is, as we look at the bigger picture and we look at bigger scale, it provides even more opportunity to use those employees effectively in conditions where you can't necessarily use a machine or artificial intelligence. or an automation process or platform. Interesting. All right, and we're getting close in terms of the end, in terms of time. I know we wanted to end a little bit early. We didn't want to take the full hour. And speaking on that same, are you looking at adding AI and ML, AI and machine learning, adding a layer to your solution to help with kind of budgeting and forecasting? Is that something that's on your roadmap?
That is absolutely, yes, it is. So there are two ways we are looking to add it. In the budgeting part of it itself, depending on the type of content, for example, and the historical data, etc. And also during the execution part, where when we talk about the invoice processing, for example, and there are a number of tools which are already there from SAP Stable, which provide this functionality for machine learning and artificial intelligence. So we are looking to bring those in, plug those in, and make it more efficient. It will also help in financial amortization, which is getting more and more complex. So having the ability to use some of the artificial intelligence within that, and giving the right ways, so proposing the right ways from business point of view to set up the right amortization in your systems, is something that is another area that we are looking at to improve on.
Excellent. And let's do a quick wrap up. I'll ask you a few open-end questions, and then when we're done, we're and by the way, thank you to everybody also who asked questions and participated in today's webinar. You know, it's interesting. I started off talking about the loom and the different threads, and whether you call it a microservice model, we're definitely using also the circumstance as a catalyst to accelerate our digital transformation of the business. And when I originally saw this solution and spoke with Invenio about your goals and objectives around it, it was like, all right, great. This is another piece, another very necessary piece in this very large puzzle where we're trying to take these very time intensive, what I would call a special bake, right? It's like, oh, we have to actually take time and do this individually, and we're trying to do it massive at scale. I'm a believer in this web and this interface of us all coming together and being able to interoperate amongst our tools. And SAP is obviously one of the cornerstones of that, to Richard. But have there been obstacles in achieving your goals? And that's why I say this is very open-ended, and this comes from an audience member. What are the obstacles that you may have faced, and what's your dream for our industry and for these companies utilizing your platform?
Yeah, of course, obstacles are always there, and one of the obstacle is in adopting the new solution, getting it to the right people. In fact, first that's our own problem, of course, but increasing the adaptation of that solution within the market, that's one thing. And however, I think I see a lot of interest in the industry now. People who manage these production-related processes, and they want to solve this problem. Guy, like you rightly said, it's part of a puzzle which is an important piece within it. And it's probably unfair. Many times we people in the media industry get criticized for being reactive or being late to the change, and something dramatic happens from outside, and we are taken by it. But that's actually not quite true. It happens in many other industries also. You talk about mobile phone industry. It was not changed by Nokia or Motorola. It was changed by an outside player. The car industry was changed by Tesla coming from outside, not by GM and Ford. But what happens is, what is more important is how industry reacts to it after that. And there are examples where now the automobile industry has got their act together. They are coming up with their own versions of electric cars, and we see the future unfolding in front of us. And I think in media industry that is the case. If you look at the history, yes, music business was the first one to disrupt, and there was a lot of disruption caused for a long time. But now the dust has settled, and we have probably 3 large music companies which have emerged, which have reinvented their business models, and they are growing. They're doing very well. And if now when we talk about production and online business, it's probably happening even faster. There was a disruption which probably came from so-called outside the industry, but now the industry has adapted to it very quickly, and we are on our course to adopt, embrace the new technology disruption and make use of it. So yes, there are obstacles that we face, but we are quite encouraged by the response that we get actually from the industry, where there's a lot more openness, a lot more willingness to change and adopt new processes. stay competitive, and not only stay competitive, but also create breakthrough innovations which will define the industry for the future. So for me, it's quite encouraging. In fact, I don't feel that as challenge at all in any way.
Richard, I didn't know if you wanted to chime in at the end and say some closing remarks.
No, I think Kedar summed it up. I mean, I think the biggest obstacle always to change is just change, right? And we've all been forced to be changed. I mean, we're all sitting here on a two-dimensional screen right now instead of in a room together and things. So I think the biggest obstacle was inertia. There's a great German parable around the axe cutter and the farmer. So I encourage people to go Google that. If we don't take time to sharpen our axe, we end up becoming less productive overall. And I think there is a transformation. Transformation has been driven by external forces and macroeconomic forces, and just the sheer volume of content that is being consumed. I mean, you look at the numbers. What was it? And the slightly dated March, 30% increase in Netflix subscribers. But on the other hand, 37% of people say they would churn on one service or another should they lose their job. So there's a lot of moving parts right now, but I love this industry. What can you say? I mean, it's kept us going through some of the dark days in the last 90 days, right? The joke about I've reached the bottom of Netflix, probably relatively true for some people on here. But no, I think Kedar said it. It's his nickel, his show. I'll let him have the last word.
Wonderful. All right. Well, by the way, great close. Kedar, you want to say something? By the way, thank you to everybody out there listening to this webinar. Of course, this is recorded. It'll be distributed. You'll see it in the M&E Daily, also in the HITS newsletter. Kedar, we signing off?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks everyone who took their time out and stayed with us. A lot of great questions. Great to hear that. Thank you, Richard, for joining and taking some of the questions as well. And yeah, I think just as a closing remark, like I said, I'm also very, very excited by what's happening in the industry, not only as a consumer, but almost like an insider working with the industry for so many years now. So I'm excited by how our industry is changing now, and what lies ahead, which is very exciting future. And we are happy to be part of it, and we would be happy to contribute in any way that we can. We have a great offering here, which you can benefit from. But even without that, if you need any discussions, any suggestions, we'll be very happy to have any conversations.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for closing that, and thanks to everyone for joining. We've reached the end of the webinar, and we'll see you on the next Mesa event. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Kedar. Take care. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you, Guy. Thanks for organizing. Great. Thank you.
Cheers all. Thank you all.
Yes.